I'm Ashton Addison from Blockwest Capital for Investment Pitch Media, and today on the Crypto Coin Show we have Gregor Zavcer, the director at Swarm. Gregor, welcome to the show, and thank you for taking the time.
Hi, Ashton. It's good to be here. Excited to be here. So yeah,
likewise.
Let's get started.
I feel like it's a great time in the crypto industry as well. Things are looking good. You know, the banking system didn't completely fail, and I think more people are waking up to decentralized currencies, decentralized applications, and storage. And as the web moves more towards Web3, I think things like Swarm are going to be needed, very much so. So excited to dive into it today, and I would love to kick off our conversation together by starting with a little bit of your background in crypto and blockchain, and how that led to you being at Swarm, and then we'll dive into everything with Swarm.
All right. So I've been in crypto actually for ages, and the turning point for me was attending. I think it was the first Ethereum meetup in Vienna before Ethereum launched, and there was Vitalik presenting the vision of the world computer, which consists of the Ethereum blockchain, Whisper messaging, and a Swarm as decentralized storage. And this was for me, this made the click, so to speak, because before that I was very much involved in thinking about and working on decentralized business models, which I wasn't really taken seriously by my environment, so to speak. It was quite early on. And at the same time, I was also, as part of my master's studies in cognitive science, I was working on user modeling and was very much interested into peer-to-peer data solutions, because essentially personal data can be very, very sensitive and very powerful for those who know what to do with it. Think of Cambridge Analytica just as one of like these mainstream examples, but what I would say more worries me is the things that we don't know happening. Yeah. So, from that point on, I think this was something in 2015. I guess how they say, the rest was history. I was completely hooked on blockchain. A year later, I met Victor, who we could call Mr. Swarm, so to speak, and we connected, and this was, then it continued from there. Swarm was already an ongoing project within Ethereum Foundation at that time. So I was kind of part of the project, but really joined in full-time capacity in 2019 when Swarm started the graduation process from Ethereum Foundation.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Crazy backstory. And yeah, Vienna was like the original conference. So I'm glad to see that your interest has only grown since then, and obviously the rest of the world has taken notice now with all of the capital driving in there. And I feel like it's more important as more people realize how much data of their own and their storage, their personal information is all on the web, to make sure that it's in a secure place and transferable security, and that it's transparent, and using like something like World Computer to be able to have all these files in there. Now, let's dive into Swarm. From a high level, can you just explain exactly what Swarm is and the benefits of it?
Yes, sure. So Swarm is essentially decentralized storage and communication platform. Our mission, we say, is to empower digital freedom by making data unstoppable. And I'm happy to dive more into that if needed. But essentially, for somebody to think more, it's kind of the person who runs the B node, who joins the network, and the storage they give at disposal to the network, that storage becomes one part of one global hard drive. It's not like BitTorrents or other decentralized storages where one is just sharing files. No, here literally one becomes part of one bigger hard drive, and this has big implications in how we can deal with data and what we can build on top of that storage. Mm-hmm. So essentially Swarm enables, and this is some of the things that also excite us, enables a very vibrant and diverse layer 2. On top of Swarm, there can be protocols developed, other kinds of databases, and all in such a way that the users are in full control of their data. Mm-hmm. At the same time, also, it's a new use case for the enterprises where they can basically the data that is shared on Swarm, all counterparties access the same data, so they don't need to trust the storer of the data. We see a possibility of many really new business models and use cases in the future, especially in the light of what you just also said.
Yeah, definitely. And thank you for that, explaining that. And I wanted to dive a little bit more into that because there's definitely different types of storage, whether it's your personal information or it's something like Google Drive and you have your photos of your family, and they're storing it, or there's actually the applications themselves, which most of the Web2 applications are hosted on something like Amazon Web Services. A lot of the applications that are run on the internet, they have storage as well. Now, is Swarm more focused on the personal file storage, or is it the application storage, or is it a mixture of both?
So it's all of it, because Swarm is an infrastructure layer. So it's essentially, this is exactly where layer 2 comes in. Some developers might be interested in developing applications and solutions that address personal storage. Some are more interested in developing open public data sets. So the Swarm really gives here like an immense flexibility. And in that sense, it's also, I would say, the very known use cases for Web3. A lot of times people just mention NFTs, and you mentioned Amazon servers. One just cannot store the art on a server where somebody just can turn it off. So in a way, I would say that the whole domain of decentralized storage is maybe still a little bit under the radar, because there's no Web3 without decentralized storage.
Yeah.
So there's no open metaverse without decentralized storage. And data is just growing in importance.
Yeah, it's true, because I feel like a lot of people, they see, there's a Web3 application, but really most of the applications right now, they're using a blockchain ledger for the transactions, but the application itself is still sort of hosted on Web 2. It's not really fully Web 3 in all aspects. And I feel like there's still like less than 1% of the applications are actually hosted entirely on Web 3. And I feel like because the infrastructure hasn't really matured out yet, or at least the usability of it, for example, in personal files, it's very easy to sync your iCloud to your phone or to drop stuff on Google Drive. There's a lot of extra steps and complexity to do that in a decentralized way currently.
Yes, exactly. And also here, I would say what it's important to note is that there are different flavors of decentralized storage. So what I mean with that, they build on different models. With some storages, it's more like that there is actually, you want to trust the storer node. Here with Swarm, it's basically the one who uploads the data to Swarm makes, so to speak, a contract with the network, not with an individual storer. Why is this important? This is important because this sets the foundations for censorship resistance. It means also that the node operators are not liable for the data they store. They don't know what they store because they store just parts of some data, which can be parts of actually many files. And at the same time, it's also those who publish data, they can have like this assurance that they're really in full control.
And I know that you mentioned, the long story of Swarm being built from, one of the first use cases on Ethereum within the foundation, now continuing to grow out. We're still not seeing it in the mainstream. Obviously, there's still a lot to grow. But is there personal files and applications already being stored on Swarm right now? Like how big is it at this point?
So, given its long history, is just starting out. It's I sometimes tend to say good things take time to build, and I'm here very proud of our team because they're the true geniuses at work, and they've been the ones to really correct permissionless persistence guarantees. So it's not just file sharing like from one computer to the other, but it's really a extremely decentralized network. We've been developing different toolings and solutions on top of Swarm for quite a while now, and they're also starting to mature. So now I would say, is the time to join Swarm to see how it can be used. One example to mention is we have solution called FairDrive. FairDrive essentially is sort of like, yeah, like you see all the other drives around, like Dropbox, Google Drive, etc., but in a very decentralized way. And why is this also important? It's important not just for the users to store their data, but also for developers to have a quick start. So on Swarm, one can, and we've been seeing these kind of cases, one can, I would even say, we didn't test it, but probably it's a very fast way to deploy your own decentralized app. You can take something, some code, fork it, or just build your own, connect it to FairDrive, upload to Swarm, link to Ethereum name service, and you have that running almost out of the box. And this we also see in that sense that, in a way, emergence of a new kind of developer. A friend of mine, a very good expert in all things decentralization, he dubbed them weekend warriors. Essentially, what it means is these developers can fork something, deploy, then another developer comes, adds a feature, and it can be an ever-evolving cycle of development. And at the same time, because Swarm really provides scaling for the developers, they don't need to follow those strong forces that we now see in the startup world. A successful app today really hits like the problem of also rising server costs. This, with Swarm, one just pays for the upload and the storage. But with other apps, what happens is rising server costs force the developers either to monetize their apps or look for investment. And VCs that also have their own agenda, so to speak, their own goals. So I think here we really can, in a way, also turbocharge, I would say, not just decentralization, but also the open source movement.
Yeah, great explanation. And I'm well aware of the costs of running an application on Amazon Web Services. It's thousands and thousands, even for small companies, per month. And they're making so much money from everybody. And really extorting some companies as well. I'm curious, how do the costs get determined for these companies that want to do decentralized storage? How does it determine how much that it's going to cost them versus how much it stores? And same for personal files. How does that comparison make if people are paying a few dollars a month for storage centralized? How does that compare on a decentralized nature?
So it's quite a layered question. A lot of things to unpack here. I will try to address all. First, in the sense, I think it does not compare. It does not compare because it's a bit similar as why are we using blockchain? We are not using blockchain as a substitute to Google Compute Cloud. We are using blockchain because of the trust element and how we deal with money and finances on the blockchain. So this is one aspect with Swarm. It's like this full control and being in charge. How much is censorship resistance or privacy worth? So it's really hard to compare this in that sense. Now, when we speak about, there is still, of course, some cost attached. And my claim that for a developer, for a dev developer, that these costs are constant needs to come from somewhere. And the gist is it's different crypto economics. So here, it's actually the cost of bandwidth and serving the data is offloaded to users in the form of microtransactions. So for a developer, it does not matter if there is one person to download the data or the website or a million, because it's all basically done by the network. Also for the end users, there are some thresholds in the network, so there is easier onboarding. They don't need to go through like this MetaMask process and loading up the accounts, and I would say Web3 UX hell, so to speak. So, I mean, there's still UX challenges also on the Swarm side, definitely. But the main point being there is the shift of who bears the costs. Now with popular applications, there's even another advantage because Swarm has two types of incentives. It has the bandwidth and storage incentives. And in a way, nodes, they compete which one is going to be the first one serving the chunk of data. So if there's popular content, nodes also decide to cache that content and just serve it themselves. And this kind of causes for Swarm to act a bit like a content delivery network. So in a way, the more popular the content, also the faster it's going to be served.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. And that sort of reminds me of back in the day with torrents. If there was something that's popular, it would be shared by everybody, and it's really fast to download because everyone has a piece of it to download. If you're trying to find something obscure, it's going to be a little bit more expensive, or it's going to be a little bit harder to obtain. So, and I feel like as decentralized storage continues to grow out, for example, the Bitcoin white paper, maybe everyone will have a copy of it. It'll be very abundant and easy to get, easy to access. And that's the good thing about this is that as it continues to grow, it's only going to be better. It's only going to get better.
Exactly. I think you basically, you went at the heart of the challenge. Exactly, like with BitTorrent, that's exactly the experience. So what happens with unpopular data? Mm-hmm. And this was the big challenge also to solve for Swarm. And this is done with the storage incentives, with the true decentralized storage incentives to address exactly this. My personal data, for example, or enterprise data, it's not popular data. Hopefully, so it's my private data. So I'm more or less, or the people I share with that data are going to download it, but this doesn't make it popular from the network perspective. And how to address this? And Swarm was the first one to actually crack this.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And when I first heard about decentralized storage protocols, the term that was popular was the IPFS, Interplanetary File System Protocol. Is what Swarm is doing attached to that or competing with that, or how does it compare to that?
Excellent question. There's a couple of takes, I would say. It depends, again, on what perspective we take. I would argue that no decentralized storage solution at this point are a competition to each other, because the total market cap of all this and the user base of all these storages is neglectable compared to the big guys. Yeah. So it's in that sense, I think also the only way forward for the Web3 space is to collaborate. Yeah. It would be also down the road, I think it's quite an arrogant attitude to say there's one decentralized storage to rule them all. That would be sort of like saying there's one database for all the use cases. So that's probably just not the case. In that sense, I would say also that there's this saying, the tide lifts all boats. So the more the awareness and education about decentralized storage grows, the better it is for everybody. And it's like the more popular IPFS is, the better it is also for Swarm, and vice versa, because it's a lot easier to explain to somebody what Swarm is who already has the grasp and ideas about decentralized storage and knows IPFS, than to, let's say, the average joke who's like, decentralized what? So it's, in that sense, education is really an important take. And in that sense, I would say I don't see really any other solutions as a competition.
Mm-hmm. Great explanation, Gregor. And speaking of building relationships and working together, I'm curious about the existing Web2 solutions. Those apps that are on Amazon Web Services and Google Cloud. It's hard to. You don't want to turn your app off. Say you want to go to Web3, but you don't want to have downtime, or you want to make it easy on the personal side for people to move their files without having to delete everything manually, store it, and redo it. Does Swarm build relationships with the Web2 side to easily integrate or work together to bring in those Web3 benefits without having to turn off an application?
Awesome question. I would say we want to. It's right now. We are really focused on getting our network as performant, as robust, and as secure as possible. And it will still take some time for the technology to mature. We also see that the adoption cycle of Web3 is a bit slow. I would say it's unrealistically to expect enterprises that they would just switch from one solution to the another. These are like big stacks, a lot of legacy code, etc. It takes time. The way how we see it is also here that there's going to be transition where also use cases will be, well, enterprises, for example, will extend their stack with Web3 and decentralized storage. In Europe here, a very good use case could be management, GDPR management, and consent receipt. And this is something that could bring cost for enterprises down. There's already been some grants, also Swarm grants given by connecting AWS with Swarm and being able to easily transfer data between the solutions.
Okay. And yeah, GDPR is a great example. I feel like you mentioned their enterprises, and I know that a lot of enterprises and institutions are very forward thinking. I'm curious if you're already working with some big enterprises that are all in on decentralized storage with Swarm.
We are in talks with various organizations. Our goal right now is also to actually more support non-profit organizations. We believe there's a lot of also good data to basically be unlocked and shared with the community, and this is where we also see a lot of need where we try to help them. That is why end of last month we also soft launched the data upload sponsorships, and we are preparing an initiative that's called the Great Data Upload, to first bring humanity's good data onto Swarm, and for Swarm really to act as a public utility. An example of this is last year we already started a grant, and it's been successful. Sorry, it was a prize, not a grant. Bringing Wikipedia on Swarm. We know there are community members bringing OpenStreetMaps on Swarm. So we are looking at this kind of data first, also to beta test it, so to speak, to enable options for developers, and this then also improves the value proposition for the enterprises.
That's great to hear. And what are the next big things? 2023 looks like it's going to be a big year for Web3, and I'm hoping for adoption of these decentralized applications and more storage as well. What are the big things that you and your team are working on to bring to the next versions of releases for Swarm for the upcoming future?
So on the layer one front, it's definitely hardening the network, making it more robust. We are also working on the so-called, internally called Milestone 4, which is bringing better support for bigger files. So this is on layer one. We can then expect also that the first protocols will be developed at least as a proof of concept, and essentially through all the data that we expect that's going to be uploaded onto Swarm, the express commitments that we have already, we believe that this will be a very also valuable experience in really making Swarm the safest and strongest decentralized storage network. On the ecosystem side, which is, I would say, maybe excites me even more, as that's the purpose of why we are also building for good data and people to use the network, is next week we are announcing the graduation of Fair Data Society. It's an ecosystem initiative that we've been nourishing within Swarm. Then there's things like the great data upload. Definitely there's going to be more decentralization from the perspective of the organization. So there's a lot of exciting things coming up. I think, yeah, we are now in a way, I said to our guys also, I said, we finally built our car, and now it's the time to take it out of the garage and take it for a drive. And yeah, so looking forward to the coming months. and
Looking
years.
forward to that for you as well, Gregor. And exciting updates. What is the best way for people to follow along with these updates when they come out, and community channels where people are talking about Swarm and stuff?
I would say following your podcast, for example. But besides that, it's I would invite everybody to just visit ethswarm.org. So ethswarm.org. That's our main website.
Yep.
There are also all the links to connect with us on Discord, on Twitter, on Reddit. Let's say the usual suspects where to connect. So we are very happy when somebody reaches out. And I would just say, I would say developers should be building and experimenting. We are trying to put as many bounties out. There's a option to get a grant. So there's all kinds of ways how to engage with us. Just
awesome.
Come and join.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Gregor. I'll leave the links for ETH-Swarm and the socials as well in the description box below to make it easy. Thank you so much for all the insights into decentralized storage and what Swarm is working on. It's a very exciting, pivotal moment in expanding Web3 and bringing more applications and files actually to be in Web3. So I appreciate the work that you and your team are doing, and let's follow up in the near future.
Thank you. Thank you for all the good wishes, and thank you for having us here spreading the word about Swarm. So I think the future is bright, and we're excited about it. Thank you.
Thanks.